Hi, Craig here. Today I want to talk about basic fuel injection. And I'm going to talk about quite a few fuel injection systems that I'm familiar with. There's many more that I'm not going to talk about here, but I'm just going to give a brief overview of fuel injection. So I've got a multi-plunger pump here, basic system. This was the CAT scroll system. Also, sleeve metering is very similar. We had an injection pump that was run off the camshaft, and it had pumping units, one for each cylinder. Fuel was drawn up by the lift pump, went into this injection pump where it was pressurized as a result of a controlled bypass, a small orifice in the outlet. So that brought this up to about 60 psi. And as the camshaft rotated, it would activate different plungers and different volumes of fuel, and they'd be sprayed into the combustion chamber. This is an inline system, so this was in the head, a camshaft above, and there was 3 more injectors here, or at least 1 more. Fuel was drawn up, sent through the head where it would have fuel available to the injection unit. And it was about 60 psi as a result of the restricted outlet as well. So those are the 2 basic systems that we start with. The PT system was the Cummins system of that day, and it used pressure, fuel pressure, and time as variables to control the engine operation. DDEC was around the corner, and DDEC is Detroit Diesel, and it was our first electronic engine to come out, and it uses EUIs, electronic unit injectors. So it used this system, but these were electronically controlled now. Followed by the HUE system, which was a really interesting system that used high pressure oil to create the pressures to inject the fuel in the cylinder. So that was the HUE, hydraulic electric unit injector. HPI-TP was time pressure system. This was, again, Cummins using time and pressure as the variables to create the fueling equation to once again inject fuel into the cylinders. Most of the systems now, they are going to a high pressure common rail. And a high pressure common rail is similar to this, the fact that it has the rail, but it's done in an accumulator, and each of the injectors will have a line going to them to inject. But this high pressure common rail can be 30,000 psi, where it gets its name from, high pressure common rail. And the injectors have gotten a lot simpler. I think there's an intermediate valve that they can either put the pressure on or off and create the injection and have multiple injections. So there are some of the earlier systems that we've used to create the fuel injection, moving into the modern systems. Now, one of the things I want to mention, in the old port helix, the PT, the opposed plunger, they had to be governed. There had to be a governor involved here to make sure that the fuel didn't output the needs of the engine. So the governors would control it through springs and weights and make sure that these engines couldn't run away. I also should mention some of these earlier engines, such as the CAT scroll pump, they later on put electronics on it. And they were trying to keep up because when DDEC came out with their electronic engine, CAT was trying to keep up, so they came out with something called a peak engine, and it had all the electronic components on the pump. They put it on the engine, and it did work electronically. Later on, it was called a partial authority electronic engine because it was a mechanical system with electronics added to it. And I think the opposed plunger did the same thing. These were considered partial authority. So whenever you get a hydromechanical system with electronics on it to control the engine, they call it partial authority. And very quickly, we moved into full authority electronic, such as the DDEC, the HUE, and then moving on to electronic EUIs, which CAT did also. And then high pressure common rail came in and managed the fueling equation. I hope you found this helpful.